So there was a trade in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
It was.
There's been so many trades in the NFL now. It just seems like it's just commonplace now. And I know that it must help with their PR. This feels like almost like a business decision. Like, you know what? Let's make trades more doable and let's make trades more plentiful. And we get more PR. It's working for them right now. And the latest one, we talked about not wanting to see some of these types of teams improving themselves at all because they've shown themselves as to be contenders at the top of the NFC and potentially for Super Bowls. The Washington Commanders, man.
Yeah.
They go and they add wide receiver Debo Samuels in a trade. And for me, I'm still hoping if there's a guy like a Myles Garrett available or others, I am really hoping that teams like the Eagles and teams like the Commanders are not the ones sitting there waiting to scoop them up. Because I do believe, even though Jaden Daniels is always going to be that straw that stirs that drink, giving him more weapons that the defense has to be concerned about, that's only going to help him and that Washington Commanders team overall.
Yeah, and that's why I alluded to at the beginning that I get why the Commanders did it. Debo Samuel, I have questions about whether he's still good. I think last year was probably the worst season of his career. Mm-hmm. Certainly the worst season of his career when it comes to being a threat in the run game. And when you look at Debo Samuel's career, it's mainly predicated off of a phenomenal rookie year where you're like, oh my goodness, this Debo Samuel is amazing. And then that 2021 season in which he was otherworldly. But a lot of his career has been really marred by injuries. But when I say I get why the Commanders did it, they do have the cap space. Even though Debo Samuel is a $16 million cap hit this year, the Washington Commanders do have that kind of space. And when we talk about NFC contenders, I think they have, at least before Debo Samuel and maybe even with Debo Samuel, the worst group of weapons in terms of them. I mean, the Lions certainly have better weapons. The Eagles, you want to talk about, I'd say even the Packers and the Vikings have better weapons than the Washington Commanders right now. And with Jaden Daniels, you saw what he was able to do last season, have that phenomenal rookie season, while also leading his team in rushing, while having Terry McLaurin and then a combination of mid. So if you're the Commanders, you might think to yourself, you know, Jaden Daniels is the type of player in this Cliff Kingsbury offense that can get a lot out of a Debo Samuel, maybe more than the Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan 49ers were at this point in his career.
And that's where I was going to go. I look at this more as not what Debo Samuels might have been in recent history, but giving effectively not just Jaden Daniels, McLaurin, and mid, but really against the Lions, it was Jaden McDaniels and just capable. And everybody that seemed to touch the rock from Jaden Daniels, they seem to be open. They seem to be able to make the play. And that's where when you're looking at a guy with Debo Samuels who is capable and then some, that's where it's like, think about the type of attention that a Jaden Daniels is going to attract defensively. And if you can get Debo Samuels into space, that's where you have to be concerned. I don't expect him to come into the Commanders and just take over the wide receiver position in NFC North, in the NFC. But I do expect that at least wherever the Commanders' mind is more or less what you were talking about. The ability to really just have more capable and the opportunity to have big play, home run type hitters on that offense around the Jaden Daniels. And that, I don't think that is something that you're just like, oh my gosh, you're shaking in your boots. But you take note, especially of a team who's trying to find ways to capitalize on what they did last year, rather than what we saw out of the Texans, who one year they looked like they were headed to the top, and then by the next season it looked like back to the drawing board.
And Denver Blair says Debo won't hit 700 yards, and that's certainly possible. Like, I'm not so sure if Debo's even good anymore, if injuries have worn on him a bit. But also, when you look at the Commanders, you also have to take into account, and these are guys that contributed for them, even though they're not big names. Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, Noah Brown, and Zach Ertz are all free agents. Ooh. So right now, it's literally Terry McLaurin and then nobody, at least in terms. Who knows if they'll resign some of these guys, but they need more weapons. That's really one of the Commanders' biggest weaknesses. They don't have an 1,000-yard rusher, and they don't have a number 2 wide receiver. And right now, they don't have a tight end either. So they're just trying to it's an arms race right now. The Commanders, they fancy themselves as Super Bowl contenders next year, as they should. They made the NFC Championship, and they're just trying to improve their team. But do I think Debo Samuel will look like the smartest move in retrospect? I personally do not, but I can't be mad at them for doing this.
Yeah, it makes it probably look, I would say, a little more desperate in seeing what their outlook is. But in terms of what they did in the draft last season of bringing in difference makers, that's where you're looking at what are they going to do in this year's draft as well to do the same. So they've shown, and that front office has shown that they're going to be savvy, and they have an eye for being able to identify the talent that can step in and play right away. You know, I know there was a lot of people who didn't even think, Mr. Captain himself was going to be able to make a difference, that much of a difference for the Commanders, and he comes into Ford Field and gets a couple interceptions for them. So it's just like it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because like I say, this one isn't one where I'm like, this is clearly miles below Myles Garrett going to Commanders type of thing here. But it does kind of pique my interest and intrigue just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, let's give it up for Debo Samuel, man. After about 4 trade requests, finally getting to another team, man. Clap it up for him, man. I'm actually surprised the Commanders made this move. Yep, give him the golf clap.
But kicking and screaming.
I'm actually surprised the Commanders made this move, because I felt like they needed a more prolific receiver. And when Sam points out that nobody else is technically on the roster right now, it's a little bit even more surprising. But is Debo Samuel a good player? Yes. Will he help the Commanders? Yes. Am I terrified or scared about this? Absolutely not. And it's mainly for 2 reasons. One, Debo Samuel has never been a prolific receiver in this league. It was how Kyle Shanahan used him at certain points that really made him dangerous. But I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury and the boys really want to use him in that way, and they'd be smart not to, because the second reason is that he has a lot of wear and tear on that body. He has been injury prone year after year after year. It always seems like he has some kind of nagging injury or something that gets sustained during the season that keeps him out for a number of weeks. And I just don't know at this point in his career that you want to be trotting him out there as your, I guess, number 2 at this point. I thought they could have did a little bit more. And when you just look at, before they went to free agency, Dyami Brown, he has some skill, but he's somebody that needs to prove it on a consistent basis. Zach Ertz, he's a aging tight end. Although he is still kind of productive, he is a aging tight end in this league. So I thought they would go out and maybe go get somebody that's really prolific in the passing game. And they haven't done that. But Debo will help them. I'm interested to see what they do next, considering that they have all these holes on their receiving core going into free agency and the draft. But it's okay move, but not nothing as a Lions fan that I'm looking over like, oh my God, they got Debo Samuel. Like,
I mean, the Lions have infinitely better weapons than the 49. I mean, the Commanders right now, even with Debo Samuel, but I also have to give it up for the Commanders, because they were the one that ended the Lions season, and Jaden Daniels showed that he can make it work with lesser. He wasn't playing with bums. I mean, Terry McLaurin is great, and guys like Dyami Brown stepped up in the playoffs, but lesser weapons than like a Jalen Hurts or a Jared Goff had, for example. But there's some people in the chat that are not very high on the Commanders, think that they're going to fall off a cliff. Denver Blair, who is not having a great day, but I'll respond to this. Washington had a good year last year. It was a flash in the pan. Look at Stroud, Purdy. It won't amount to nothing. Don't act like JD is Mike Vick. First of all, Jaden Daniels' rookie season was better than any season Michael Vick ever had. Talk about someone with great PR, Michael Vick. Jaden Daniels was better last season than Michael Vick ever was. Ever. That's fact. Look at the numbers. No disrespect to Michael Vick, but he was always a very mid passer.
And that to me is why the Debo thing, the Debo trade just perks my ear a little bit. It's more or less to do about what's around Jaden Daniels and the fact that I believe he's the type of, when you talk about K with gravity, it kind of reminds me of the same thing. Can you put some specialists around him? Can you just put some guys that understand the league around him, and then you look at what happens? We talk about the fact that K don't got that much star power or help around him. With a Jaden Daniels, if you put some players around him, is he the one that makes it go? And last year, we all know he was the one that made it go. Obviously, we got more of an up-close and personal look at them, and obviously they came with a defensive game plan that discombobulated the Jared Goff in that offense right away. I do believe, though, that with a player as special as Jaden Daniels, who looked to be the sole reason for a lot of that season, why this team was looking as special as they were, that to me I put in contrast to the Texans, who I thought that they were very, very well balanced and put together both offensively and defensively with C.J. Stroud. So those Stroud shows that he could be special. he had that step back. If Jaden Daniels is what that rookie season was, I do believe that he gives him a good chance to be able to repeat the success that he had. And you look at guys like in this league that he's gonna be competing with. It's gonna be teams like the Packers and another young quarterback and a Jordan Love. Is Jaden Daniels, can he lead his guys effectively a little bit better than a Jordan Love or whatever the Vikings are gonna run out there?
Yeah,
I think that there's other teams that are posed to maybe take that step back, whereas they actually, because of a Jaden Daniels, have a chance to at least stay where they're at.
Well, and just remember, people, because I see, of course, like Terrell Lamar, who his batting average is about 200 usually. I'll just say that.
Hey, chill on my man.
No, I will not, because he's got some. Y'all said the same thing about Stroud. And, you know, I've always been defensive about C.J. Stroud. It's another one that I feel like I have to put the cape on for. Here's the reality. Were his numbers worse? Absolutely. Did all of his receivers go down at one point? Yes. Did they still go to the playoffs and win one playoff game? Yes, they did.
And a division.
People act like C.J. Stroud was a disaster. He regressed a little bit. Let's calm down a little bit. I understand his expectations were sky high, and he did not meet those, but C.J. Stroud is still somebody who I think is going to be formidable in this league for a long time.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a quarterback that gives the Texans more opportunities to win than lose. It's just a situation of how special is he towards being one of those sole reasons why you can kind of will a team. When we saw, oh my goodness gracious, I don't know why his name is slipping my mind, Buffalo Bills.
Oh, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Yeah, when we saw Josh Allen come to Ford Field, that was a Josh Allen show.
Yeah.
It was just, and that's what I mean. Jaden Daniels, he puts off that same type of energy and that same type of vibe and performance, where C.J. Stroud looked like he was headed in that direction, but he still didn't put that type out his rookie season, nor did he put that vibe out the second season. We saw both of those quarterbacks. There was something extremely different about Jaden Daniels than a C.J. Stroud, and I still got high hopes that C.J. Stroud is going to be a guy who can run out there and give you a chance to win every game. It's just Jaden Daniels is the guy who, you know, you put a couple, you know, if you draft a rookie tight end, a rookie wide receiver, I still think he's going to go out there and have a good season with those guys.
I saw it was a Dante 151. What if the Commanders draft Colston Loveland?
Don't.
Uh-oh.
No, you don't want to see that.
Nope.
Yeah, let him keep old-ass Zach Ertz.
Colston?
Please don't do that.
That's where the conversation gets interesting with them. Like, because there's a bleak picture of their current roster, but it's like they can go and add a couple pieces to the draft, and it's like, am I going to question their assessment in the draft just like I would in Brad Holmes?
Yeah.
They put starters out there.
But I also wouldn't trot out all rookie receivers either. This is why the Debo move kind of surprised me, because I don't know what the receiver market looks like, but I'm sure there's better actual type receivers out there that you can pair with a Terry McLaurin. I assume they will re-sign De'Ami Brown because he's young, but and he can play that slot pretty well. But they should have never traded Jahan Dotson. Like, he would be pretty nice on this team by now, especially with a Jaden Daniels. I still don't understand that move to this day.
I think they're going to add a couple pass catchers, man. It feels like it almost tips their hands. What you're saying, it makes sense then if they would go and get the Debo to try and add the veteran depth through free agency or trade. Yeah. If you're going to probably bring in the rest through the draft.
Like, Debo should be your number 3 at this point.
For sure.
You got to bring in somebody else. You got to. This can't be your sole move.
For sure.
We'll see.
But, Colston Loveland, I don't think he's getting past the Broncos or the Chargers, but, please, I do not want to see him anywhere near the Cubs.
Right.
Come on, no way.
Yeah, you know Harbaugh looking. He can't wait.
Harbaugh's hiring.
I can't wait to have him come in here and block.
Connection, dog.
Man, and Denver Blair saying Colston was always hurt in college. That's just not true, man.
Yeah.
People, come on.
Did Jim Harbaugh hire Kirk Campbell?
No.
Okay.
Wait. Did he? Oh yeah. Was he on the staff already?
Oh shoot.
I don't think so. I think that was a Sharon Moore hire, I believe.